Hi, everybody, and welcome to Cyber Business Daily for December 12th, 2024. My name is Kate Fazzini. This is a different format. I'm going to be doing audio only and just sort of toying around with a few different things as we get used to this daily cadence. So I'll be diving right in. If you haven't seen today's Business Daily newsletter, it has already gone out, and we'll be discussing some of the content therein. Specifically, we're going to be kicking off with M&A. It's been a banner year for M&A and cybersecurity. Over the next 9 days, I'm going to break down some of the biggest acquisitions that we've seen in the past year. I'm actually starting with one that happened at the tail end of 2023. It was September. I'm not sure if that constitutes the tail end, but at least it's the last quarter of last year. This is going to be the Crowdstrike acquisition of Bionic, which is an application security posture management solution. So let's talk a little bit first about what Bionic was. And I say was, I'm going to be describing Bionic in the past tense because this is an acquisition that happened quite a long time ago. Some integration has already happened. But I want to use it as foreshadowing for some of the bigger acquisitions that we're going to see then later in 2024, ending, of course, with the massive acquisition or attempted acquisition of the significant major cloud services security company Wiz by Google. That one is still one that we'll be following quite a bit. So the company Bionic described itself back in 2023 and before as an application security posture management solution. Like I said, they called this ASPM. So there are a lot of acronyms that crop up in the cybersecurity world. Some of them stick around and some don't. And this one is one that I think has done a pretty good job of sticking around. They characterize themselves as one of the first players in this marketplace. And there were two. Of course, there are many use cases for the product that Bionic was, and the product that was acquired, again, for $350 million back in September of 2023 by Crowdstrike. But the two main concepts that really set Bionic apart, and you'll be seeing this again and again, is from a 10,000-foot view, the product was extremely appealing to companies of really any industry, any size, across many different types of marketplaces, because it was able to do two primary things that are very difficult for enterprise security teams. One of those was the ability to uh, successfully allow application developers who are developing on a multi-cloud environment, which so many companies have today. So if they have several different, if they're using AWS and they're using Azure, and they're going across, different types of functionality, there has never been a really great way to allow developers to integrate security tools and security best practices, especially when it comes to later down the road access management, into that process from the beginning. So, why is that important? The issues that arise because of application access management, especially when applications are being configured or built internally on a cloud-based environment, whether it's multi-cloud or not, this will prevent a significant number of the types of data breaches that occur later on. It will make it easier to detect vulnerabilities in the applications that are being developed. It will make it easier to determine that the right people have access and determine if someone has been granted access or has been incorrectly given access through an insider threat or stolen credentials. This has, for a very long time, been a very difficult process, and one that companies typically don't have the bandwidth or I would say the executive support to follow through with. So why is that? Because the app development process is one that is typically focused on revenue generation. So these teams are not incentivized to slow down their process for very much. They need to have an application that works, whether it has security built into it at the time that it needs to be shipped, is sometimes inconsequential to those people who are on a deadline and whose jobs depend on being able to finish in time. So, as a product, being able to build in that foundational security, the security that will save quite a bit of trouble down the road without much of. I don't want to say that it's automated, but because I think that creates in some people's mind a little bit. Um, it's just a little bit of a buzzword. This is something that cuts down on the time of these teams to do tasks that they really do, that they really are supposed to be doing, that they really do have to do, that they might get sort of in trouble with in the if they're doing any sort of pre-shipment quality control process. Some companies do, some companies don't, but this is the sort of thing that will get those developers in trouble later on. And this is a much easier lift for them. It also uh, simply made it possible to give the analysts who are monitoring that multi-cloud environment the ability to do essentially the same thing, which is get access controls and have visibility into the access to various apps, whether they're internally or externally developed, across those different cloud environments. Again, why is that important? Um, if you're not in the business of cybersecurity and you've never been on the other side of the screen from the types of security alerts and configurations that are available by cloud service providers, they're extremely complex. There are hundreds and hundreds of rules that you need to put into place. Those rules, if they're being violated in some way, whether it's through access controls or configurations, it's just constantly alerting you to those problems. And you, as the security analyst, the human in the human cog in this wheel, you have to alert all of those teams that have those that are flagging the broken rules, that are flagging other issues, and try to get them to fix the problem. What was interesting about this tool is simply that it gives, again, a much better view into what is one of the more critical foundational security pieces in terms of access management and being able to control various things going on within the applications, both being developed and already in use, and being able to see those. So we'll talk about the Wiz acquisition later on, and why Wiz has been such a desirable, interesting company, probably one of Google's um, biggest acquisitions ever, an enormous amount being put on the table for them. And by comparison, the Bionic acquisition was really for just a small part of the security stack that CrowdStrike offers, but it shows the desire. And again, this was a $350 million acquisition. It shows that all of these companies are understand that cloud security is really the battleground for this business, and being able to provide the most all-encompassing solution for cloud security, offering the most visibility, and as I describe in my newsletter, taking the weight off of the shoulders of the security analyst to be doing all of that, the running down of all of those rules. The inability, having to transfer back and forth between different environments, different types of rules, different types of configurations, and being able to have, I hate using the term single pane of glass because we're so far from, I think, anything that genuinely provides that. But, it just shows that these companies understand that being able to capture that fulsome market where companies will only have to have a few solutions for their cybersecurity issues, essentially becoming the sales force of cybersecurity, where there are all of these different sales functions that just sort of get gobbled up into one really ubiquitous solution. Google, of course, very competitive with CrowdStrike on that in that regard. Um, So we'll check that out later. We'll go a little bit more in depth about what some of these companies do. Again, Bionic being more of a piece of the pie sort of company rather than a whole cloud solution like Wiz is. And I'm really looking forward to talking about some of the other major acquisitions and even some of the threatened acquisitions that have come up in the cybersecurity marketplace. I think it's going to be a really interesting year for cybersecurity consolidation in 2025. In other news, we've been, of course, watching the headlines on the tragic death of the CEO of United Healthcare. Because of the nature of this publication, we're really looking at the cybersecurity and security angle and what executives in this space can expect from the future as far as how their executives are going to react to this. I've taken the view of the CSO, the Chief Security Officer. I know CSO stands for a couple of different things at different companies, but we're talking about Chief Security Officers here. The Chief Security Officer role at many companies has changed significantly in recent years, especially as cybersecurity has garnered a lot of attention and a much bigger share of the budget at some of these companies than it had in the past. It has made the role of the traditional CSO, which was very, very focused on physical security. So the physical protection of executives, of course, but also of buildings, facilities. The most significant cyber function that would fall into this role was the badging of employees, the ingress and egress at buildings, and recording who is coming in and out. So the concept of access management, which is important to both physical and cybersecurity, kind of started in this role. But as cybersecurity became a bigger ticket item, a lot of CSOs chased the digital element of it. And so you've seen at a lot of companies, you just look at any 10K that comes out from any large Fortune 500 company, and they'll say one of their biggest concerns is cybersecurity. But you will almost never hear them say that one of their biggest concerns is physical security, unless they're in the defense industrial space and they're in a war zone. It's very rare to hear that. You're probably going to hear that on the next several rounds of quarterly calls, especially at healthcare companies and at companies where executives might face a similar threat because of the role that the company itself plays in the public sphere. It's very interesting to see how CSOs are reacting to this. But one of the most difficult things that many of them have described, both publicly and privately, to me and in some of the CSO networks that I'm in, is that it's just very difficult to convince boards and executives that they are at risk. This has been a long time problem for cybersecurity people as much as it has for physical security. So CSOs, certainly, if they are not as integrated with their cybersecurity teams, as many of them are not still, many of these functions sit very separately from each other, unfortunately. But they could certainly get quite a bit of help, especially on the risk management side of things. Many CSOs are looking into how to get better threat intelligence, more realistic threat intelligence, more up-to-date threat intelligence. There are so many providers in this space. I expect that we'll see a lot of them continuing to discuss the products that they have and services. Travel coordination has also been a really interesting one, with people looking into, in the CSO space, more products that are geared towards ensuring that social communications have the appropriate content, but using what they consider to be appropriate content to be, are people at the company, or are the executives saying where they're going? Are they describing all of their travel plans? Are they posting pictures of themselves, exactly where they are at any given moment? And how does that translate into a risk for the executive and therefore for the company? There's going to be a lot of really interesting things, I think, that come out of this tragic incident, and we'll just be continuing to monitor that. Finally, there's been another round of sanctions from China on a number of U.S. defense firms, many of them big names. In a really interesting move, and one that I'm not sure is going to be particularly effective, and I'm going to be very interested in it. But last week, the sanctions that were noted, this was in response to the U.S. government's sale of arms to Taiwan, the $425 million arms deal. The new Chinese sanctions, particularly look at 6 senior executives for companies that you're probably very familiar with: Raytheon, BAE Systems, United Technologies. All of these have executives all over the world. This has included assets being frozen that are in China, and barred entry for those executives. So that's really significant, especially for a lot of these big international companies. It's very interesting. Typically they would be barred from entry or not traveling to countries that are only in some sort of wartime situation, and so that was very interesting. There were a number of smaller companies, and this is one thing that I am going to be tracking very closely. I'm going to name the companies quickly because there's so many of them, and because they have some of them really long names. Thank you, my cybersecurity people, for how you name your companies. I'm going to go quickly here. These are the 13. Teledyne Brown Engineering. A lot of people know them. Brink Drones, Inc. Shield AI, which is right here in Coronado, California. It's a beautiful place. Rapid Flight, LLC. Red 6 Solutions, Nexus, Inc. Firestorm Labs, Inc. Kratos Unmanned Aerial Systems, Inc. Havoc AI. Neros Technologies. Cyberlux Corporation. Domo Tactical Communications. And Group W. I haven't looked in. I don't actually know what Group W does, but I feel like I'm going to just do a whole story on them because I like the name. It's nice. It's simple. It sounds clandestine. I like it. So one of the really interesting things about these 13 companies, I didn't read all of their comments about being sanctioned, but a lot of them really embraced it with open arms. You didn't see the same sort of response that you might have with the Raytheons and the BAEs, where they, say they comply with all the worldwide laws and they do their best and they disagree with the decision, blah, blah, blah. Some of them were just like, yeah, thank you for the free publicity. Thank you so much for banning us. It goes right to our mission. Of course, almost all these are defense companies that are either marketing to or already selling to the Department of Defense, the Pentagon. So yeah, this is pretty good for marketing for them. There was one. I'm gonna just call it Shield AI because I really like this company, and again, they're based like right down the street from me, and here in San Diego County. This was from their VP of Aircraft. He posted this on LinkedIn. His name is actually Armor Harris. That's ARMOR. What a great name for somebody at a defense industrial. Here's what he had to say. Today, China's communist government announced sanctions on us at Shield AI. Our company exists for one main reason: to ensure that a destructive conflict between the great world powers doesn't happen. This is the most probable threat to the life and prosperity that we peacefully enjoy in the United States. More than most people realize, the best way to prevent major conflict is through strong deterrence. These moves by the Chinese government show that we are directly moving the needle on deterrence. But our job is just starting. The world needs 1% of the best engineers in tech to work on defense for the next 2 years. I think that last line, very beautifully written. I really like this. I think that last line was a little bit of a pitch for you to apply. So if you're looking for a cool job at this place, they have very good writers. I respect a cybersecurity company that employs good writers. All right. Thank you all so much. That's going to be it for December 12th. We'll be back tomorrow talking about more mergers and acquisitions and many other stories that have come in. We have a major insurance company acquisition that I'll be addressing that I think should give us a lot of very interesting insights into next year's market for cyber insurance. All right. Thank you so much. Take care, everybody.